By Jon Craig, chief political correspondent Nicola Sturgeon has told Sky News a second referendum on Brexit is becoming hard to resist. Scotland's First Minister said voters were given no detail on what they were voting for in last year's referendum. And she said Theresa May's government's policy was no clearer now and the UK could crash out of the EU with no deal. Interviewed on day 2 of the SNP conference in Glasgow, Ms. Sturgeon said a second EU referendum was not her party's policy. But she said, "I think that argument may well gather real force and become hard to resist in the future." Video how the EU might move on without the UK when people voted in the Brexit referendum, and this makes it very different from the independence referendum in Scotland. There was no detail about what people were voting for. The most detail people had was that lie across the side of a bus, and 15 months on we still don't have any detail. We could end up crashing out with no deal, with a bad deal. And in those circumstances, for a government simply to say to people they have to accept the outcome no matter how bad it is may become very difficult for them to sustain. Video Sky News Special Report Our Ocean. The SNP leader also paid tribute to Sky's ocean rescue campaign, declaring Sky has been leading the way on this issue. Increasingly, people are very concerned about waste on our streets, on our beaches and in our seas. So we've decided we're going to introduce a deposit return scheme for bottles. Having made that commitment and given a clear decision to go forward, we're now in the phase of designing how that scheme will work in practice. The First Minister said she welcomed an indication from the UK government that it might look at a similar scheme to Scotland's as well. Video Prince Charles interviewer testing the world to destruction, so hopefully we'll see real action here to clean up our seas and beaches and streets, take action as part of the wider action we have to take to protect the planet and the environment for the next generation. She also offered some comfort to Scotland's football manager Gordon Strachan after his team crashed out of the World Cup qualifiers, and he claimed his team struggled because Scots are not as tall as players from other nations. "I'm a huge fan of Gordon Strachan," she said. "I remember when I was much younger, a wee girl, in fact, watching him play for Scotland. I always really liked Gordon. Anyone who takes on the job of Scotland manager is taking on a lot of responsibility and pressure onto their shoulders, and I think we should be grateful to Gordon for doing that." Image Ms. Sturgeon had words of encouragement for Scotland boss Gordon Strachan. "I suspect his comments were probably made in the heat of the moment. I'm not sure the argument can be taken too far. We got better over this qualification campaign. We almost got into the playoffs. I think we've come closer to qualifying than we have in a few years. Let's take the positive from that. But clearly we've still got work to do. We're not quite good enough yet, but hopefully we'll see Scotland in a major championship in the not too distant future."